I'm excited to chat, and I'm excited to see what the community is going to throw at me today because, oh my, why not? Also, I will mention Val. Everyone, hope for Val. We're hoping she feels better. She has tested positive for the Cove. So, just saying, everyone, give Val some love. Let's do it.
All right. First question for you, my friend. Will the decayed land plots be reduced in price or remain the same as other plots in the area? Two-parter.
Well, so, I mean, I don't know how the community works, and I don't know what you people are going to do, I think would be the way I'd phrase my response to that. I like the idea of, hey, they're going to be in response to land is decaying. Is it going up or down in price? Look, I don't know if that's what you people will do. We aren't going to like go in and go, cool, decayed land is now worth 20% less, because that would be weird. Land that decays, people aren't using. Land that people aren't using is not necessarily going to be worth as much. I don't know. We'll see what you people do. We're not going to... Decayed land doesn't like have a price gauge going with it, I guess would be the way I'd put it. It's simply a notification to everyone. Hey, by the way, this is happening. These people aren't logging in. This stuff's going on. This may be coming up, plus a handful of other things as decaying sort of works. But, you know, it's not a price goes down because we said so. It's a market forces thing.
The privileges of the naturalist seem to be non-existent until there are decayed land parcels, which I assume won't exist for the first few months of the game. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I mean, the privileges of the naturalist exist from the beginning, but they don't have anything to respond to until the first season, I think, is decently underway. That's perfectly accurate. The same way that I were to say, hey, the U.S. has a tax. We're doing a new tax. That doesn't take place immediately. It takes place next year. It takes place in response to stuff. The privileges of the Nine, how the Nine operate and what they do, as well as the aspects within, are a thing that is in response to the rest of the emergent economy. So we need things to emerge from. So yeah, I think that's perfectly spot on way to describe it.
I wanted to hear Brooks' thoughts on yesterday's event, the hashtag GB Summit, where he was a speaker. For the people in the community, they gave you a little shout out, my friend. For the people in the community who did not get a chance to watch it or participate. Yeah,
GAMESBEAT is always an interesting thing. It's not GDC. GDC is very developer focused, very centered on, you know, developers talking to each other, very often companies trying to sell each other things, honestly. GAMESBEAT is much more of a, you know, high concept business / marketing sort of setup where people are talking about strategy and those things and trends. And GAMESBEAT is very much about that. So when Dean hit me up and we were talking about going, he always enjoys having me along because he knows I'm a bit of a gadfly, especially when it comes to, well, pretty much anything, but for certain the crypto space. The panel I was tasked with sort of responding to is how to discuss NFTs without getting people mad at you. The underlying sort of joke there being that I have found it, and others have found it difficult to discuss NFTs without, one, gamers hating you, or being accused of FUD and having crypto people hate you. And how do you have that conversation? How do you discuss? And my answer is, my answer is what we're doing, but across the board, it's understanding that crypto people aren't like, well, there is some truth that there is like a diehard for crypto reality. Crypto people are not like divorced from reality, and neither are gamers. They're both responding to what they understand these terms to mean. Now, if I say NFT, decentralization, all of that shit to a crypto guy, they're not focused on the negative things that have been done with it. They're aware of it, and they make jokes all the fucking time about how there's this Ponzi scheme or this other Ponzi scheme, Ponzi-nomics being a term people throw about. But they're not divorced from reality. They're aware of those things, but they see the positive side and they see the possibilities and they work towards that. And so with gamers, it's not different. They just see the other side because they haven't seen the rest of it. We are limited as humans by our experience, after all. So as you sort of go through it, the ability to talk to gamers, honestly show them what they're doing and what you're doing in a way that is realistic and not filled with jargon and bullshit, while also doing the same for crypto people. It's again, it's removing that layer of, hey, I'm using a term that's new and you don't really know what it is, so I can sell you anything. That load of bullshit is, I think, the difficulty, because what we're doing is looking at how the entire system is affected. When someone adds to their game, and let's say I'm talking to a mixed audience of crypto and gamer people. If I say we're going to be adding true ownership to the game, you can't act like that exists in a vacuum, because sure, you can say, oh, the idea of true ownership, that's great. But what does it affect? What does it produce in that ecosystem, the system you're building? Because nothing is alone. Nothing is in a vacuum. And that's what people in games especially, but I think everywhere, do, is they like to pretend the thing they're adding is in a vacuum. But it doesn't work that way. There is things it produces. There are things it does that have knock-on effects. So what does it do across the board? And if you have the conversation honestly by saying, here is what we're building, we're doing this, here's what it affects here, here's how this works here, and talking about as far to the edges as possible, so that way there's no part of the machine left out, so you're not bullshitting around the entire thing, you're able to have an honest conversation with both sides in a way that both can digest on their own merits, rather than trying to fight over a word. NFTs is a great example. NFTs is a bullshit thing to talk about. Feel free to tell me what an NFT is. What it is it's a non-fungible token. But in that sense, great. But it's a database element. Who gives a shit about database elements? Literally no one here cares or fights over database elements. The idea of an NFT, that's the fungible crazy thing. And it can mean profile pics. Sure, it can mean 3D models, game assets, blah, 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 blah. It can mean all those things, but it doesn't. Those are instantiations of the underlying tech. And so when you say to a gamer, what about NFTs? Their brain goes to the bullshit ones, because those are the ones that get the most press, to be frank. It's them or monkeys. No one hears about, oh, by the way, you should see what Futureverse is doing, or what Illuvium has done with this level and how they're integrating. They don't give a fuck about any of that. They see genuinely awful things, because there's a lot of awful things that have been done with NFTs and crypto. Having an honest discussion means eschewing that, talking about what you're making and producing all the way to the end. That was my final point, is ultimately you need to just be able to say what you're building all the way through and care about the whole thing. Because instead of throwing in whatever tech seems to be the sexiest, whatever tech seems to be the hottest, understand that what you're building has knock-on effects and will change things. Because if we could go back and say, hey, free to play, that's interesting, but don't just add it. It ain't just a thing in a vacuum. You're going to end up producing games that, are basically abusive bullshit machines that casinos are jealous of. Maybe we should take a step back and think about the whole system. Like crypto's supposed to do.
Cool. So it sounds like for you, it's a lot about setting expectations, yeah?
It's about setting expectations, but it's about having what I consider to be honest conversations. And I don't mean that the opposite is like a lie, because that implies sort of an intention. When people talk about ideas, they don't realize that they're lying, because you say one thing and someone else takes that idea and they go, oh, this is what I see that as. Because not all of us have had, a few of people in our place who own the 81s, for example, have around 100, 1,000 fucking NFTs of different varying utility abilities, different projects. When I say NFTs to that person, they're thinking of all the stuff they've owned and that they've bought into. NFT, that isn't it. Those are NFTs. But at the same time, the guy who, bought into Jake Paul's fucking weird Pokemon ripoff thing that he did, that's NFTs too. But they only has that touch point versus this. And games wise, games, well, it's Axie. Oh, crypto games. Is that really all we can do? No, it's not all we can do, but the idea is what people attach to. So if you can step beyond that, if you can actually have an honest conversation about the literal things you're putting in place, you can have discussions with everyone. We've been able to have talks with hardcore gamers who see what we're doing. And, and again, we're very blunt about a lot of stuff. We're very blunt about where we want to make money, instead of, using flowery language and trying to sort of pretend like we don't care. Even though it's like crypto's like one of the most hardcore capitalist things you can do. We're honest. This is where we make money. Here's how we're other people. Here's the setup. Here's the flows of the different pieces. Here's where things can be bought and sold. And people like are able to talk to us about the thing rather than just the idea and shitting on us or the idea and cheering, which I don't want either side. I want people who want to build, which is not a new thing, I think, to our community for me to say that.
Will the land plots have early access to come in a variety of sizes, or will all plots be the same size?
So the current setup is that the land plots are going to be the same size. We are planning that they're going to be, unless there's some weird act of God that changes that. I don't foresee that switching. It's a big deal to us that people have, generally speaking, the same ability to do different things. Again, how play works and where play enters it. We want to make sure that it's not, hey, I bought this land plot so I can have 22 buildings. You bought that one and you can have one. That type of design encourages weird hoarding, but also a general power struggle that doesn't allow one person who may be closer to the center, or closer to a stadium, who can, do bigger things, take more advantage of that, yield larger profits, versus a group of people externally. It shouldn't be more than that dynamic. It shouldn't be, I have to group with 23 people to match the one person because that's the size of our plots. I don't know if that makes sense. But the goal is that ultimately everyone has the same opportunity, even though there's a general rarity to what you can do with it. That married with sort of your efforts and your work in building those things up is intended to be the setup. So, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So these architects, do you envision them fighting with each other? I ask because I've never seen architects fight with each other, and I'm kind of curious what a cage match might look like.
Oh my God. I'm going to answer that honestly, even though I know it was really a terrible joke. The way that people with buildings will fight, it's not going to be, some sort of feudal lord system where you buy armies and send them into people's territories to invade or anything of the sort. You do it the same way anyone does it in business, through market forces and through market manipulation. Things you can do in this. You go to war like you do in Succession or Billions, but two shows I really love, where you're actually trying to take out the other person by doing better, by undercutting, by manipulating the setup. This is the metagame. This is the game people are playing when they're buying into things even as far back as Farmville. The metagame of Farmville was about undercutting others or utilizing your circle of friends in order to get ahead. This is the metagame we want to encourage. That's very much the metagame we want to encourage, for sure. But you're never going to be like, okay, cool, I want to take over your land. Fight me with this, and we're going to play a game of StarCraft to see who gets the land. We're not doing that. Someone has asked me that one before. We're not doing that.
And you're like, there's just not enough pylons in the world.
Oh, wow. No, there's not.
There never is. But there was a second part to that question before we go down that rabbit hole. Also, what will the pricing of these plots be based on, and will we have more concrete gameplay and tokenomic info prior to land sales? So New York question, right? They slipped 3 in there.
Yeah, so I'm going to work backwards because I think that's easier instead of starting with the question they want me to start with. So up front, I can say that we will have, and I'm going to stop using the term tokenomic. I'm getting kind of tired of it. Our token and the design of it is really about the economy. Tokenomics was a cute moniker that kind of plays with the idea of the token being the economy. And that's true for us, but I think there's a lot more to it. So we will have full information on the economy of it across. Now, concrete gameplay, that one it's an interesting question. I would say no. We will have, because the economy is the gameplay. So whoever wrote the question, I would love to actually sit and you can at me in the Discord, and I'll get to that sometime later today, because I want to understand what you mean by literal gameplay. If you mean what you do as you move a mouse and how you click on stuff, we aren't going to necessarily have UI done and you interacting with things at that level by the time we do the land sale. But we will have the economy up there. You'll understand tokens, how they move, and we're doing something weird, and I'm excited in the next couple of weeks to actually share all of that with you guys and have all of you tell me that I'm insane, which is cool. But But that setup sort of moving us towards the economy being the game. That is the gameplay. I would say that. I don't know if that makes sense, but that is the gameplay. So when we get to that point, how will the plots be priced? We're going to be doing a sort of a tiered sort of setup as we get going. It's going to be about distance from the center, distance from the stadiums, the arena, the main Arena Perilous. But not every plot is going to be like available from day one. We're going to be very, very sort of, I don't know, we're tiering it out to make sure that the people who are part of the 81-729 and our mains are taken care of. They're able to get what they want. We want people who have also come to us by then to have some level of chance. In the same way that we're designing our tokens so it doesn't favor like, you know, the people who are in the earliest in psychotic ways over everyone else. We want to make sure that that's continuous, that the people who come in have some level of advantage, but it's not psychotic. The people who are in early on don't literally get to buy 12 people buying every piece of land, for example. So that way they then get to resell them for exorbitant prices, a la Ticketmaster or some psychotic shit. We want new metagamers to have a chance to come in and actually have some way in as well. So that's the intention. More is going to be released on that over time, and we are, generally speaking, very responsive to the community overall.
And of course, you're in luck because the person who asked this question has a bar in downtown Cora, as I understand it. So if you want to meet them,
Kevin, of course.
I believe it's still Big Kev.
Big Kev, of course.
Not to be confused with Small Kev.
Yes.
No. Size of the plot, right? How much time does an owner have until his land has decayed after purchasing it?
That's variable. This is changing based on general activity. There's absolutely no desire for us to have it be something that is, you know, oh my God, I should have done something. Or if you do something and it pushes, that's not the setup for us. There's enough time for you to play with it, to do some things, and all of that shit counts. But as the features are literally implemented, again, these things are going to be very public, very visible, very coded publicly. There's not going to be any surprises for anyone, even people who buy land or take part in it. We will have these things out for everyone.
Are the plots going to be more expensive as they are closer to the Arena Perilous?
Yes, in both the land sale and I also presume in the general market. No, it's entirely possible over time as one of the games that's way away from the Arena Perilous becomes the most popular thing. We have 150 games, whatever it fucking is, that the Arena Perilous may even be eclipsed by another stadium, depending on how the game is doing. If Call of Duty comes to the platform, it's not. Do not get excited. But I'm just saying, like, if something huge came, I would fully expect that to become the sort of hottest spot. These things can change based on overall activity, rewards, how the things are setting up, how many players are in each game. I think the Arena Perilous probably will be. But I would just really suggest people don't think that one spot is always eternally the safe place and the best place. The same way, you know, land works in real life. There's very few places on Earth where land has continually grown in value. There are a few, for sure. But there's also within any city, there's different neighborhoods as they move. Everything changes. That, like, in our world moves faster than all of that. Not only being crypto, but also being that our world moves faster. So it's, yeah, that's how I'd say that. Yeah, that works.
So this one's from Old Greg with an exclamation point for legal reasons, of course. Can we hold you to revealing the token design in the next 2 or couple of weeks?
November. Let's not say, I shouldn't say couple, I should be very particular. But November, yes. I will be talking about it and sharing it. Whether we share, hardcore, hardline, every little detail, the big ideas around it and how we're functioning through it, I am very confident. So yeah, hold it to me. And if I don't make it, feel free. I will show up and you can slap the shit out of me, Old Greg.
Oh man, what's it with you and getting beat up these days?
Hey, it's I just feel like it was a long 24 hours of flight and running around and doing shit.
And you don't want it to end, huh?
Oh yeah, no, it's tiring. But no. November, I'm exceptionally confident that we'll be able to share at least something. But I think we'll be able to share maybe all of it. I'm excited. We're getting there. Lawyers are very happy with it. They're the only ones holding things back because I don't want to go to jail. But we're not going to do that because we're actually doing something really cool that no one else does at all in tokens, which is going to be fun.
How much will the different generations of aspects, so the second all the way to the end, affect the bonuses? And will it depend on how many types of aspect each generation has? 2 for the second, 3 for... I think that means progenitors. So does the mixture of progenitors with aspects affect the multiplier?
Okay. So I can say, generally speaking, that like as these things are implemented, that's probably the best place for me to answer that. We're doing simulations, discussions, design things. We have people who are consultants. We have a wonderful set of people on our cap table who are helping us do this. And I would just say that I'm not comfortable saying fully how much they will, because we're going to be doing that as it's implemented. Right now is me guessing, and I don't like guessing. The ultimately though, it's based on the first generation you have, the top line. It's based on that setup. So I think I want to say as we go, we're going to reveal this when it's coded in hardline, when I can't change it. I'm very uncomfortable saying things right now that aren't literally coded because we may run into weird bugs or interactions that we have to change. I'm just more comfortable saying it'll come soon. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. When it comes to bugs, right? That's where the naturalist gets involved and reclaims these answers.
Yeah, when it comes to generation, it really does matter the first, which is your primary. Are you the second, third, fourth, fifth aspect? Like that's the thing that matters most. So, and that will continue to, and the privileges come off of that. But how much? There's a whole bunch of shit we've got to figure out.
After purchasing land, not to be confused with before purchasing land, and its value has increased. Let's say the owner wants to sell it, and the next owner also wants to sell it after a while. Does the first owner get a bonus for that sale? So I think it's like a kind of royalty question there.
I would say no. It doesn't change the bonus, the value. No. It's the owner of it. It's generated at the time. We're very much an in-time, in-moment play response thing. So like if the land is sold X days after the end of the season, for example, the bonus is only sort of placed on the owner's activity. It's about that owner. It's about that thing. Now, the person who sells it in that season, that counts as general behavior and activity, but it doesn't count towards that land. It's no longer their land. So it's like one of those things that there's going to be weird. Again, once this is done and we have this coded and this starts getting bonused, it's one of the reasons we aren't being terribly specific, because once we have it coded, it's public. You'll be able to see it and we can't change it. And that's the whole point. But right now we can, and I kind of want to be able to, because if we do something and it ends up fucking us or it ends up breaking the economy, we need to be able to know that now or next week or 3 months from now or right before everything goes live. But once everything goes live, like we can't change it. We have seasons, we have setups, we have all these complex interactions that we've got to be able to have on our testnet, run, get going, and then know and make adjustments. Once that's set up, we're going to be able to get it out there. But we've got to be able to shift and evolve before then. Because again, we're building an entire economy. We aren't building a handful of things that interact inside of a larger sort of ecosystem or other chain. We are closed. We are a gigantic singular economy. And so I've got to be like the Alan Greenspan, or I don't know, pick one that didn't screw up the economy. They all screw up the economy. I need to be one of those that don't. And so we're doing our best. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's kind of how much time you got on that one, huh?
Fuck. I mean, when we discuss the token, it's going to be a really fun conversation because it's a type of economy that hasn't existed before. You're able to start getting hints of it though, because there's a few people we've run it by who have already started crowing about the concepts that we shared with them and starting to talk about how they're important and why. Especially if you follow me on Twitter or follow Nor on Twitter, you'll start to see people making comments who are aware and who we've changed the opinion of how tokens need to function. So yeah, we got a lot of shit to do. Cool. God damn, we got a lot of shit to do.
Can you talk about the different game types you plan to have as launch games? So what type of games do you expect?
So we know we're going to have a runner. We're going to have a couple sort of more in line with, I would say, traditional Twitch sort of fun things. We're aiming towards having a shooter, aiming towards having actually a slew of games. One of the things I'm trying to do is trying to find games people aren't expecting for us. People are expecting us to have like a lot of competitive games. Oh, do you have a shooter? Sure. We'll have a runner that's literally about racing and chasing, like hunting people down. Also, melee. We're going to have a bunch of stuff, but I want to have more. I want to have stuff people don't expect. I want chess, a chess-like. I tend to be a Go person, not so much a chess person. Sorry about that. But stuff like I want to play with speedrunners. I want to play with a lot of things that I think people are dismissing out of hand or not realizing that the system is capable of handling. Because if we start talking about just people playing through a game and how do they do that? How does speedrunning work? How do you have competitions? Does it even need to be multiplayer? Can it be a game like Super Meat Boy or Super Mario or... I doubt we're getting any, but the ability for us to do those things, I think, is huge.
Can you talk a bit about what went into creating the 9 concept art that was recently shown?
I actually would love to have Fred maybe do a bit on this and sort of talk to the community about the process, because it is a long process. This wasn't something that we did over the course of even 2 or 3 months, 6 months. 10 months,
about
like a long time. So we sat back and we started talking about what do we know we need at some level of like top line functionality. How do we break out? And we didn't call them privileges. We just knew we needed some archetypes that would do certain things inside of the space. And as we started discussing all of it, it was like, we didn't want to have, I'm big on not having just the generic sort of, hey, look, it's, Avengers archetypes or superhero archetypes. I hate all that shit. Our characters are people who've lived billions of years, entire lifetimes. So what does that mean? How does that set up for us? What do we do? And how do these things impact each other? And how do people live with each other over time? What does it mean to live in this time frame, in that level of time frame? The artist, I think, the artist was a concept I came up with as we started really diving into what immortality meant. And as I was kind of explaining to people, here's what I mean when I say, what does it mean to be immortal? The idea that we have someone who's lost somebody. What is death experience? How do you live with the memory of someone? If you haven't experienced death, it's a horrible thing, but imagine how long it would take for you not to remember their face, which is a thing that happens. And then it's how long to remember their smell, the curves of them. What if you had the obsession to live with that over time, sculpting them, building them? At some point, would your sculpture become a sculpture of a sculpture rather than them? At what point do you lose them entirely? And you can't even remember what you even started with. Like, time is a phenomenally interesting thing. Memory is a phenomenally interesting thing to play with. And all these characters have some aspect of that. I should find a different word than aspect, I suppose, when talking about our stuff, but they have a different part. They have a different part of them that like is about playing with immortality here, pain here, suffering here, the same stuff that I think all of us live with in one way or another. And we wanted to try to attach it to very human experiences, even though they're absolutely seemingly inhuman. They're not. They're very much us, just with a near infinite lifespan. So what does that mean for different types of personalities and archetypes? And we sat down and we did Miro boards and concept boards, and we wrote about them. We talked about them. We took screenshots. We talked about others. And then we just ended up, Fred early on coming up with some sort of visuals with the writing team. And then, found a really phenomenal concept artist that we were able to work with for, I want to say 5 or 6 months. I think it'd be fun to have Fred go through that and sort of talk through the process, and even at some point show, I think, more behind the scenes stuff about like how we got there. We're not fully done, and we've got a lot to sort of reveal and talk through, but it's exciting. And I'm really happy with how they turned out. I love the characters so much. I really do.
Cool. Well, thank you for joining us, Mr. Brown.
Thanks for having me, Rick. It's been lovely. I'm glad we've had a chance to do this. A lot of the stuff that's coming up as we get going, we're moving in a very interesting stage right now. It's the last thing I want to just talk about real quick. We're moving from an interesting stage. We've been building up, getting the team going, making sure stuff is working and the ideas are possible. Because there's a lot of ways we want to do stuff before we reveal that we want to talk through. It's really important to us. Because again, I don't like lying, and I don't like bullshitting, and I don't like missed promises. Every time you do that, you lose a little bit of goodwill from your own community. So we've done our best. I think we've done pretty good with it. But now we're going to be able to start switching over to the show and here's what we're doing and see things. And I'm really excited about being able to have you see, our community see, the games, how we're developing, what the mentality is, so we can really get into, a lot of people in crypto and in crypto games don't understand really what it means to design systemically, because they build a lot of games that are more in the tradition of Farmville or mobile games that are less systems and more mathematical systems. But how do you build emergent systems, physics systems, movement systems, things like that are all super, super interesting to us. That I think is going to be fun. Sharing the token is going to be fun, and we've got more coming. And it's nice to finally switch over from the maybe it's possible to the definitely it is. And it's a little bit relieving to me, because it's been a long road to make sure that this wonderful idea that we have is not only possible, but that people love it, that you guys love it, and that we get to make sure that everything we're doing is enabling you to be part of our economy, to make all the money you fucking can, and to do it in a way that is interesting and fun and doesn't fuck people. Because I think that's what all of us really want. I mean, again, promise of crypto is that we have this like fantasyland utopian economy. So we're taking a crack at it. So again, as always, it ends with thank you all for being here. And I can't believe it's another month. I can't believe it's another month. It's fucking wild how this time passes and all the stuff we share and we do. It's just great to see. With that, I think we're going to bounce. Is there any other questions?
A quick reminder. We do not have any other questions, but just a quick reminder to those listening at home. Please follow us on Twitter at Welcome to Nor, also our YouTube channel, and join us at our Discord. Stop by and hang out at Big Kev's Bar, located in the downtown metropolitan area of Cora. Absolutely.
And as always, you can always jump to us and you can say, hey, it's discord.gg/Nor, I believe, is us. Which is nice and easy to get to us, and we would love to have you and answer more questions. I'm usually around. I've been traveling the last couple of days, but I'm usually in there, and so is the rest of the team. So we're always happy to sort of chat through stuff.